Okay. What do you all think of Cesar Chavez?
Oh, I liked it. It was good. I didn't really like know anything about him before. Like I like knew the name. Reading that, I was like, oh, that was really cool. I liked it.
Yeah, I really liked it too. And I was really sad that I never learned about him like in school because I didn't know
Yeah,
any
like,
of it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they added him to the curriculum, but I don't think they like had him featured in our curriculum when I was like, because I was reading something that mentioned somewhere like second grade is when they talk about him, and I don't think that they had that when I was in second grade. So it's kind of cool to see that like I'm pretty sure like he's a person that's like included and you learn about. So
hmm yeah, because like obviously what he did like affected a lot of people, like because like a lot of the books we've read are about like migrant workers and stuff, and so like
mhm, mhm.
one thing I like noticed, like I feel like this is like a pretty obvious thing that like everyone else probably knew that I just didn't realize. Like I like was thinking about like Martin Luther King and like
Oh
uh,
yeah.
Ruby Bridges and like the other people, like they all like use the same strategies to make change, you know, like using nonviolence, like using marches and like stuff like that, like, and they always, I just think it's cool that like everyone uses like the same techniques kind of like, you know, I thought it was
Mhm.
interesting. I just like
Mhm.
realized that today.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw nonviolence and it immediately made a connection for me between him and Martin Luther King.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think like with leaders like that, it's like the same. It's like we want change, right? We want like improvement, but we don't want it to be like this violent thing. We just like or type of thing.
And I feel like
Which
that like throughout history has been like more successful than like when people try to use violence to make change. Like I forgot who it is. I think it was like
Malcolm
Malcolm
X.
X. Yeah, that like used violence and it like didn't really work as well, you know.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting.
oh, that is interesting. I guess like do you guys know more about Malcolm X? Because I don't really remember that.
It was really just like he had the same ideas. He had the same ideas. Ideas. Why could that word not work? He had the same ideas as Martin Luther King, but he couldn't. I don't know. He really just was more forceful in it and didn't see the point in not using violence because he was sort of like they're not respecting us, so why do we need to be careful how we treat them?
Oh, okay. Was he the one that's linked with the Black Panther Party or whatever it was called? Like the or am I making
Maybe my initial response would be no.
okay. It might just be a separate like group, but I couldn't remember. I think they were
Ideas
more
of
in the
those.
70s though, weren't they? I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, I was curious.
What I really liked about Harvesting Hope was how like I made a big connection to it because it seemed to basically be one of the first unions that was created. And I really appreciated that because unions were a big part of my childhood because my dad's in a union. And then of course like we're all going to be in a union. But like I remember my dad, there were a couple of times my dad went on strike and went to the picket lines. And I just thought that it was really cool because he was fighting for what he felt he deserved and working for. And so it was kind of school. It was kind of cool to see um, the similar ideals expressed in this book.
Did you guys have like? I remember my senior year of high school, there was like a teacher strike, and like
Oh,
school got shut down for a day. Like, did your guys
huh.
do
There
that?
wasn't really in my district. I don't
Yeah, mine
think.
What did you say, Catherine?
oh, like mine didn't get shut down, but like the teachers had like pins and like they were talking about it.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We had a couple strikes. Most of them were when I was out of school, but I was working in the school district. And yeah, it was interesting because I was working in childcare at the time, and I had some parents, and like we were at the school age site, and if school got shut down, then we weren't open. So we had a lot of parents talking to us about it. And there were some that were like, if you guys were to do a field trip to go march with the teachers, like I would totally let my kids do that. And then there were other parents who were like, I don't get why the teachers are doing this.
Yeah. There was like definitely mixed like feelings between like my teachers, like when they like decided as like whoever is the leader of our school, you know, like to do that. They were like, some people thought it was like really powerful and good, and like some people were like, no, this like messes with some people's like childcare and like stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked the book, but after watching Joy read Eleanor, like I liked Eleanor better. I thought it was more like factual because it like had all the quotes and stuff. Like I just thought it was more like it was different, which is fine, but I just kind of liked how it had more of like what Eleanor actually said rather than a story, you know? Like
Yeah, I really liked that about Eleanor too. Like I think it kind of really like personalized it a lot rather than just someone like, you know, writing a book about someone. Yeah, it was like here's actual quotes that she says, and like that was I really liked that book too, and like how it had that because I thought that was like unique. I don't think I had ever really seen like a children's book that like featured quotes from the person like that before. So
yeah. But one thing I thought was cool about that book, Cesar Chavez, is like I read the like, you know, like the back page, like how they usually have like the author like little bio. They had the illustrator's bio thing too, and the illustrator actually went to like the places that Cesar Chavez like went, like where he worked as like growing up and like where the strike happened and like stuff like that. Like she walked along the whole march route and stuff. So like I thought that made like a lot more authentic, you know, like.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
Like really went out of her way to like make sure she was like depicting it like as correctly as she could, you know. So I thought it was
that was really cool.
That's cool.
Yeah, now that I'm looking at the Chavez book in light of the Eleanor book, I feel like I hope there are books out there that are more like about Cesar Chavez that are more like the Eleanor book, because the one we read was good, but it was like it was very like surface level and kind of like almost sentimental a little bit.
Yeah, I thought it was good, especially for like younger kids. That'd be like a really, really good stepping stone.
It's like an intro.
I feel like they like sped through it a little bit. Like, oh, then they went on a march, and then this happened, and this happened, and I was like, I don't think it went
right.
Like, well. Like, I feel like there was some more like, oh,
yeah.
Like it was all of a sudden like you knew that the grapes kept on rotting, and then all of a sudden he gets invited to Beverly Hills and is signing a contract. It was like there was nothing. I wanted to see more about like what was the tipping point.
Yeah, what were the struggles he had to go through? Because like obviously it's not that easy to like make change like that. Like obviously he had to like work really, really, really hard. So,
and obviously he had more struggles than blisters.
Yeah.
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 I think, yeah, I definitely think it would be like for a lot younger reader because, yeah, it's like giving you like, which I think it's cool. It gives like the little details to like make you realize like how hard a march actually is, and like, but I also think that it definitely skips through a lot. And I think there's a lot of steps like in between that would be really important. I think for maybe even an older audience to be able to do that. So
yeah.
That was just like a really simplistic view of what happened, which is fine. Yeah. Like that's good starting point.
Yeah.
But
on the flip side, I think that Cat with the Yellow Star was super detailed, and it had so much information about this one girl's account, and I loved it.
I thought it was really unique. I like how they like had like the family pictures and like it made it like really real and authentic. Like
yeah.
I think before it's not about the in camps and like intermittent camps and stuff like that, but never about that like that specific place. And it's kind of like different than other stories that I've heard. But yeah, I liked how it included like a lot of like pictures and explanations and like connections, and I think that like made like a more like wholesome like kind of experience of reading the book.
Yeah, it was very straightforward and factual. It didn't try to like, for lack of a better word, like fantasize the whole thing. Like it didn't make it into a story like Wanting More did. It was just, these are the facts. This is what happened. You knew that it was a nonfiction book.
Which I think is really important when like it's kind of like this complicated of like a topic or like subject, right? Because it's like there's a lot that goes into it, but I felt like it explained it. Younger readers would like understand it, I guess, you know? I don't know. What do you guys think?
I really liked it. I forgot what you asked. I'm sorry. I was gonna go.
Just like what you thought, like, because like I remember reading this one book called "We Remember the Holocaust," and that was in 5th grade, and that was like kind of similar format. I had a lot of pictures and stuff, but it was a lot, and it was like personal stories, but it was a lot more like almost like detailed, like more gruesome, I would say, than this. And it could be just the different location.
Yeah, I that too, because this one was like like where they like got shipped off, right? Like
yeah, and I was wondering if maybe like for this I feel like you could do like a younger audience. With like the book that I read, I wouldn't go any younger than 5th grade because like it definitely was like really, really emotional. Not that this wasn't emotional, like it was for sure, but like I felt
like something that they wouldn't be able to handle in a healthy way.
Yeah. So I think that, yeah. I don't know what I was going to say.
Did you guys come up with a book that what did you say?
You're good.
Oh, I was just wondering what books that you guys chose to share this week, if you did.
Not do that.
No, I didn't either.
I, like, to be 100% honest, I was working on finding books for the website project, the, like, portfolio. I mean, I found a lot of good books there, but none that sort of really fit the criteria. Maybe some. I'm trying to think. What was the criteria?
Because, yeah, what was the criteria for this week?
Nonfiction, right?
Yeah. I mean, I could share mine. I don't have it
for it.
Has anyone heard of Erik Larson?
No.
Erik Larson he's pretty popular right now. He's a nonfiction author, and I never really liked nonfiction until I read his books because it almost feels like it's fiction because he's so good at telling stories. And then his like appendix at the end has like it's actually really fun to read the appendix and like the footnotes, and yeah, so you should check him out.
What does he write about? Like, what was the book you chose about, or was it about him?
Nope, it's about moments in his times in history. Like his most recent one is about a boat that sank. And the one I wrote about, my favorite one is about the Chicago World's Fair. And he weaves in like this murder mystery that actually happened, and it's like super interesting.
Wow, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's called The Devil in the White City, which is cheesy, but it's really good.
Interesting. Yeah, I know.
So is it just like a good like just or nonfiction like book kind of thing? Was it how you found that kind of book, or?
Oh, I mean, I read it a while back because one of his newer books made it on like some Amazon list of like best books this year, and then I really liked it, and I read all its other books, and now I really like nonfiction.
There was one book, now that I think about it, that I was looking up for my website because I'm focusing on books that talk about disabilities. And there's one that it would be placed in historical fiction, but I like it because it presents a side of that time period that not a lot of people talk about. And it was this girl growing up in like during World War II in America. She was like in Pennsylvania, so she wasn't really in the midst of anything going on World War II. But this girl came, like moved to town and began bullying her and also this World War I veteran who had PTSD. And so it's like it's pretty factual in the fact that it probably definitely happened, but it's definitely not nonfiction. But it was something that like popped up in my head that it was sort of, I liked it because it was a different aspect. It was like what was going on at home during World War II.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I remember reading, which I'm including in my project because I'm doing World War II like children's literature, but there's this book called The Code Talkers, and it was about this like group of Navajo Native Americans, and they were like Marines, and they were chosen to like basically pass on like messages because like the language was so like complex that they didn't, and like they so it would like that the Nazis are like Japan like wouldn't like break it, and it's like they were able to like just for the U.S. During World War II. And I remember like my teacher reading that, and it was like a really cool. I think it was more of an adult kind of book, but like it was really interesting as like a younger person to like learn this side of like the war and like what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like feature a group that doesn't often get recognized. So
yeah. I remember seeing that in my history book. It was like one little picture with a little caption, but like,
yeah,
I was really fascinated, and I looked at it for a long time.
Yeah, it was really cool. Yeah.
Sorry, my mom just came in to update me on the Seahawks score. What did you guys think about wanting more? It kind of really struck me because there was so much going on with this poor girl. And it was also, I kind of took me back because it was the first book that we had read this quarter that was about the Middle East that included someone with a cleft palate or a cleft lip. And it was something that I had completely forgotten about until I read this, but I remember that is such a huge thing over there, that all these kids are born with deformities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I liked it. I thought it was like really, I kind of had read part of like I don't know if you guys ever heard like the Breadwinner trilogy. It came out a long time ago, probably like 10 years ago, I think. And it's kind of reminded me of it, but I felt like it was a really good like depiction of, even though it was like fiction, but like a good way to kind of explain what it's like to like live there during like, a little after like 2001, I think. And I really liked like the culture aspect. And yeah, I didn't realize that the cleft lip was a ordeal there. And I honestly, at one point I forgot that she had one, and then it like mentioned again like in the book, and like I can't imagine like living with that type of thing probably during this time, because I feel like it's so much harder to get through life, especially like as a woman over there, and then to have that, I feel like it was definitely really hard. But I really liked her as a character. I felt like she was really strong and like, definitely had flaws, but like really like was like this strong, independent person that went through all this stuff where I'm like, I don't know what I've done. I would have given up, to be honest. Like, but she just like kept going, and I think she was a really good like example of someone over there. And I felt like it was also like I looked at like the author's note and stuff like that, and the author definitely tried to like make it as like authentic and accurate as possible too, which is good to know.
Did you guys think that the author had the like authenticity to write the story?
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think like because looking back, she was born in Pakistan,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
she's also an expert on books with international and Muslim themes. And like the fact that she's actually called an expert on this, it's very like, okay, I can trust this lady.
And it says too, like, there's like an author's note saying that she'd heard about this story and had I can't remember. Yeah, like she'd found, and then she also had help of like a family member who had like more insight into the culture and everyday life over there. And a couple of people that like helped with like making sure that what she was writing was like accurate. So I felt like she definitely had like that personal connection and like checking in to make sure what she's writing is actually like correct, even though it was fiction. Like,
Yeah, I didn't see that part where she like talked to a family friend or whatever, so I was a little bit skeptic. Like I saw it said that she was an expert, but like who's like
what does
how do you
that
decide
mean,
what
kind of thing?
level like
That's
like
a good
oh if
point.
you know 5 things then you're like mediocre expert, like if you know this many things, like I don't know. And then because like she only lived there, so she was like 3 or 4, I don't remember. It's like I was like I feel like she was so young. Like I understand it's probably still like a big part of her and stuff, but like I don't know. So but yeah, if she like that makes me think probably better. But.
Which I think was super important to like make sure she has that, because I feel like a lot of books don't have that, and a lot of times well, it's fiction, so it doesn't really have to be that accurate, but like it definitely think does if it's portraying like a certain time period and like, you know, having like these opinions or whatever. And I think like this was a good example of something that you should look for in other books too.
Yeah.
Have you guys ever read any books you can think of that like tried to be like, you know, historical fiction or whatever, and then like probably didn't have the accuracy that it should have?
Yeah, I have. I had a series. I had like some books from like this series of like books where it was like there were a lot of different authors, and they just chose to like try to portray life through a girl's life in some point in history, and most of them weren't that good. But one, my favorite one was about a girl, a Mexican immigrant girl living in like during the Dust Bowl times, and
wait.
like she really wants to go to school.
Is this American Girl
And then
books?
it was like American Girl books, but it wasn't. It was like different. But yeah, I really liked it. And then after I took this class, I was like, wow, that like actually wasn't the greatest book. Like after reading Esperanza Rising, like that book, so many things were wrong with it. Like she, like there was nothing about how cool her culture was. Like her family, they just like had a really hard time and they worked a lot, and then she wanted to go to school, and then she met this white lady teacher who was like, oh, you can come to my house and I'll teach you, and then it goes from there. It's
So it had the majority coming in and being the hero because they're helping the minority.
yeah.
I wonder like how, because like now that you like said that, now I'm thinking of like the American Girl books and stuff. Like those were like super popular when I was a little girl. Like I wonder like if like they actually are like accurate, or if they're like those books like when you like reread them after like realizing stuff, like if they're not actually that good.
Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering the same thing. They're probably not that accurate.
Like there's a lot of the girls are like from different time periods, but then again, like if you look at like I remember one of them's like a Native American girl, right? And I feel like her clothes are probably not accurate. Like I feel like they're very stereotypical, so probably not actually.
Like the
I don't know what her name is.
It is, but like the almost brown canvas material with the beads.
Josephina, that's her name.
Oh yeah. They're probably
The
not
Josephina doll, I feel like they did not pay attention, like, oh, we're gonna make her part of this tribe and we're gonna like model their, you know. I feel like it was very stereotypical now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah, the series that I read also had a Cherokee girl. It was the Trail of Tears, and it was really, really bad. Because there was like a painting around the time of the Cherokee Trail of Tears where like everyone had wagons and like a bunch of blankets and like supplies, and they like just looked like they were traveling. But in reality, they were just told to leave, like, with just the stuff on their backs. And
Yeah.
it was really, and she even had an American name because her parents were like, "We'll give you an American name because it's cool." And yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
Trying to think of a muddy question because I realized that we're 26 minutes in. One question I guess that I have with the nonfiction is how do you, I don't know, how do you present it in a way where you can dig deeper into the characters? Because that was one thing that I loved about the historical fiction that we read, like Storms Arising, was I could really dig deeper into the characters, get to know them, empathize with them. But with nonfiction, there's this distance. So I'm wondering, like, how do I present nonfiction books to my students in a way where they can get that connection with the character that works really well?
Well, if you think about it, like all history is like a story, you know? So like it'd be hard though. I see what you're saying because like luckily like one of the books that like I read like that was like historical fiction was like Diary of Anne Frank, you know? So obviously that's from like her perspective, so it like actually is okay to like write it as like a story because it's hers. So like it'd be harder to write it from like a historic person's perspective because you don't actually know. But
Honestly, I don't know. I feel like that should be a money question. I don't know. Yeah.
okay, so what was it? Let me write it down.
How do you present nonfiction books in a way where your students can connect with the characters?
I feel like a lot of the times, in order to have them, like you should have, I think like it was just reading like one of our literature books, whatever, for like other class where it's like you pair kind of like a nonfiction story with like a historical fiction book or like something that's like,
Oh, I know
like,
what you're talking about.
yeah, like I can't remember what they were called, but a lot of times that works. But then I wonder if like there's, so it'd still be interesting for students without having to like, you know, pair, or you can't find a good pair that's like actually like a well-written, historical fiction book. So
Oh,
that's one
I
way,
remember.
but then I don't know.
I don't remember what class, but I remember the example she gave. It was like, if you want to teach kids about elephants, you give them a good like picture book about elephants. That's about like, I don't know, something. That's a fiction book. And then you give them a nonfiction book about elephants, and so they're basically learning about the character that they just read about. Or it's like, it might be the other way around.
Mm-hmm.
But that sort of,
and I feel like it helps them like apply their knowledge that they learned almost, other ways without having to do that.
I'm thinking just having really good nonfiction books, like looking at the guidelines in our reading this week, like accurate, interesting characters, little known facts. Like there's a lot of good nonfiction out there. I think a lot of people have this idea in their head that nonfiction is more often boring than not. But just gotta find those good books.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And maybe like find a way to connect it to them. Like say we're reading like the Cesar Chavez book to our class or whatever, like asking because they had to move. Like, have you ever had to move? Like Caesar had to move. Like obviously that's like a little thing, but like you can like find like little connections, like how we have to do like the mirror. Like
yeah.
Yeah.
Like kind of do
Like
that
force
with
that.
Mhm.
sort of
Mhm.
force them to find a way to use the book as a mirror.
Yeah, or it'd be like, how did this make you feel? Like, oh, that made you upset. Like, probably he was upset too, and he decided to like make a change, you know, or whatever. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, that's probably what I would do. Wasn't there one more book we read? Or not? Maybe not. Maybe I'm lying.
There was another book.
Right?
Well,
No, we got
One
we talk
more, The
about-
Cat with the Yellow Star, Cesar
Oh, we talked.
Chavez.
That was yeah. Just kidding. There was 3. I forgot we talked about Yellow Star.
what did you guys think of Ming Feng,
What did you say?
the lady that Joy interviewed, who wrote stuff
Oh,
about
Oh,
Vietnam and Korea?
yeah. I thought it was really interesting. I liked the idea she talked about like third culture or whatever, or like being a part of 3 cultures, and like how she
oh
explained
yeah.
like her language, like, oh, English is her language of her head, like Cantonese is the language of her heart, and then Thai is the language of her fingers, I think, or like her hands. I thought that was like a really cool way to like explain it,
yeah.
to like show that
I
all of
do.
them are important, but they all like kind of serve different purposes, and like she like does different things with them. I thought it was really cool because like I've always wondered, like, people who speak like multiple languages, like what language do they think in, like, you know, stuff like the kids were at like trying to figure out too, like in the interview. But yeah, that was cool.
I really like that part too. I think like it's a good like perspective to like keep in mind, like if we have students that are like, you know, from a different country or whatever, like to remember like the different connections they have with the different languages. So okay. I don't know. I've never heard of her though, like her books or anything. Have you guys ever heard of her before that?
No.
Mm-mm.
No, I hadn't, and I went onto my local library's website, and I was really not happy to find that there were only like 1 or 2 books they had of her, but they were published so long ago, and they had like awards. And I had no idea why they didn't have them.
Yeah,
Is your library like smaller, or is it like a bigger one too? Like,
Oh no, it's like the
is
Tumwater,
it like Bellingham's?
not the
Like,
Tumwater, the like this anyway, the Olympia, not the Olympia area. I don't know. It's a pretty big area.
yeah, that's
Like
what I was
normally I
asking,
don't
like,
have.
see if like it was like a bigger library didn't have it, then like that's surprising, you know? Like,
I know. Yeah, I think I might have tried the Bellingham one, the Bellingham area one, and I don't think they had it either. I'm not sure.
I wonder why. Then I wonder how like Joy like heard about it, like, you know.
Yeah. I kept on running into that problem doing my final project. Like, I would just Google books and then I'd be like, oh, this sounds good. And then the library wouldn't have it. But yeah, let's go off topic.
Did you guys watch that poem the lady like wrote as like a combination of like things her son had said?
Oh, yeah.
I was like
liked it.
wondering why that was like, I liked it. I thought it was really cute, but I was like wondering why that was in our module, like, you know?
I have no idea.
I love things from kids' point of views, though.
They're so cute.
Yeah.
But I was like, is this nonfiction? Like, I guess it is. Like, it's what he said, but like, why is that here?
I don't know.
It's cute. But yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, I wonder what the point of that was. Just maybe to get introduced to who she was, because then like she later talked with her dad about living in Palestine. Is that what it was?
There's a muddy question. How does the poem connect to the nonfiction material that we read?
Do we actually want to ask that? Like, I'd be down.
Yeah. I was thinking the same thing.
Let's do it.
What is that?
How did the poem connect to the nonfiction material we read?
Okay. Do you know what time it's at?
34 minutes.
You might want to go on the module afterwards just to get her name, so Joy knows what we're talking about.
Oh
She's
yeah.
like, what?
I can't remember her name.
Oh, Naomi Shep Nye. I think that's her.
Yeah, because I thought
So nice shit.
when I saw her name, I thought it was gonna be Noemi Bond, that came to like campus and stuff, and I was like, oh, that's how it like relates. It must be like her poem about like the Holocaust or something. Nah, it's not.
Nope.
Okay, never mind. Sorry. But how long have we been going?
36 minutes.
Should do like 10 more minutes.
What are you guys doing for your like final project? What's your topic? I heard two of yours, but
Mine is autism and like Asperger's, autism spectrum.
okay.
Nice. Yeah, mine's like multicultural World War II like literature.
Cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah, I think that's a really unique idea. How'd you come up with that?
Oh gosh. Well, okay, so to be honest, I wanted to do like fairy tales and that kind of stuff. And I was like, I feel like people like everyone does that. So then I was like, I don't know. And then I can't remember what spurred it, but then I remember like then she's like, well, it kind of depends on like what grade you want to teach. And I was like, okay. And so I was like thinking back, and then I was like, oh, I loved in fifth grade. Like my teacher was very passionate about World War II and like had so many books about it. And I read a lot of them. I read like Diary of Anne Frank, and I read a bunch of other books. And she read like Co-Talkers and stuff. And I was like, hey, I could totally get like this kind of like big spectrum of all these different people and their perspectives like during the war. And a lot of it could be for like kids too. And so like because we read a book about like elephants in a zoo in Japan that like had to die because of like the like because they're like zoo can take care of them because of the war was happening. And we read about the Navajo Marines, and then we read about like all this different stuff. So then I was like, I could totally find more that would fit that subject. So that was a really long explanation of how I got there, but that's how I did. But
Yeah. What's yours?
What's mine? Yeah,
Oh,
good question. I haven't narrowed it down yet.
What are some of your
What?
What are some of your contenders?
I'm interested in like the LGBTQ like books like in like younger children's literature because I want to teach like first and second grade because I just saw this thing on Facebook. It might not be true, but I think it is true that they're like considering passing like a guideline like to teach about like LGBTQ like rights and like how it like came to be and stuff. And so like one of my very conservative friends posted it and was like, "This is dumb." I was like, "What is this?" And so I'd be like,
that too, but then
I'd want to like have like a little collection to like be able to teach about it, But I feel like a lot of people have done that, so like I'm kind of, I don't know yet.
it's beneficial to you.
Yeah.
I mean, just you. One thing I saw today that was really cool was, I don't know if you guys who have younger sisters might know, but Doc McStuffins.
Yeah.
They did an episode that featured a biracial or like a multicultural lesbian couple.
Really, they did?
And
wow.
Yeah, it was voiced by the two moms were voiced by Wanda Sykes and Portia de Rossi.
Oh, we're both
who are both lesbian,
yeah.
And they both have wives. And like the animation of one of the moms who was Black, she had like natural purple hair, and then the other one was white and blonde. And one thing that they said that they loved about it was the fact that that wasn't the focus. The focus wasn't that they were lesbian. It was, and they never really even said anything about it. It was just like, this is the family that they're focusing on right now.
That's really cool because like that's
cool.
like a popular show. Like I've heard of it. Like my little sister, like it's on TV. Like it's cool that like they incorporated it, but it's also sad that it's like a big deal. Like that it's still a big deal, but like it's cool.
Yeah.
That's interesting. No, I didn't even know that.
And one tip, if you're still looking for I'm having a hard time talking today. If you're still looking for books, what I did to help find some of my books was I looked up an award that's given to books that focus on disabilities, and I looked up a list of recipients.
That's a really
Yeah, I think in the requirements we had to have at least one book from like this big old list of
Yeah,
different awards.
yeah,
And that they had to do with our topic.
and I found some of them, but also like the bulk of it I can find from this list. And so like there were times where I looked up like those awards,
I
and
just found
I
got the
found some
award.
that really fit the focus on disability, and they were also given like a Newbery or Caldecott. But yeah, that was a really good place to start.
What was
How
it
many
again?
like
I looked at the American Library Association.
Okay.
They have a list of all their awards, or you can just search up like I searched a book award for books on disabilities or something, and I found out that it was the Schneider Family Book Award.
Okay. Because I like found, I like, you know, kind of like knew I needed a bunch of books or whatever. And then I realized, and there's several like awards I have to like find. But even though I have like all this list of books and I don't know if they fit in. So I was like, I don't know what to do.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay. Good to know.
I wonder like how many like because like I think the most popular award for a book that I've heard of at least is the Newbery Award. Like I wonder like how many of those awards and like all the other awards that like we've talked about like are given out a year. Like obviously it's like hard to get, right? Because like there's like a million books published, but like I wonder if they have like a set limit of that they can give out each year, or if it's just kind of like we'll see which books like deserve it kind of thing.
I know with the Schneider Book Award, it's like I've been seeing that they've been giving out like 3 or 4 every year, but it's a lot of different kinds. They'll usually do an award for children's, they'll do an award for YA, and so it might be like different categories. They also do like honors and stuff. Like there's a book that I found that fits on disability, but it has a Newbery Honor Medal. So it was basically like a runner-up.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Anyone have any final thoughts on our last reading response journal? We did it.
It's been interesting.
Being so flexible this summer.
Yeah, you guys, thank you so much. On my like late posts. Ugh.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
All right.
All right.
Bye everyone. Bye.